Okay, so in the front of your camper under this cover, this is the jack. There's a red button on this jack to turn the light on and off. This is to raise and lower. That's to raise and lower the camper. There's also a manual crank you can install on that port. If your battery's dead and you have to raise and lower the camper, you can crank it by hand. I'll show you where that is in a second. I'm gonna lift this cover off. Underneath are your propane tanks. Now these are full right now. When you're using your RV, this is going to allow you to select which tank you're going to use. See, there's a little pointer right there, and that's just to indicate which tank you're going to use to supply the camper with. In the center, you'll see it's green. That's telling you that there's gas present in the tank. But once you run out of gas, that'll turn red. So that's kind of a warning to you that you have to get your tank refilled. Now, when you're storing the camper and it's not being used, you're going to want to shut these tanks off. And also, when you're storing this, you're going to want to take this key switch out. There's a battery disconnect key right down there, and you just remove that key, and that's to prevent your battery from going dead while the camper is being stored. There's a little switch under this light. It's to turn your light on and off. So in this compartment, we have your power cord. This is to plug in the RV to electric. A couple other things. Your griddle is in here. This port, this is to fill fresh water. So this is where you put water into your tank with. So this will fill if you're going to go boondocking or to a state park. That's to fill water up before you leave. And down below, you're going to see your freshwater drain, that valve right there. If you come home from a trip and there's still water in your tank, that allows you to drain off so that you're not keeping water in there for long term. Okay, back here. So this is where your power cord goes in. We use an extension cord here at the shop, but you're going to use the heavy duty cord that's supplied with the unit. This is the main water ports for the RV, and this one here that says city water, this is typically what gets used when you're at the campground. You bring your hose, you connect it right here, and that's going to give you a direct connection to an outside water source. This port here, this is the antifreeze inlet. This is typically not used unless the camper is being winterized. Then we pump antifreeze into there, but throughout the year you're not really going to touch that. In this top port here, this is your tank flush. So this is used when you're done camping and you're emptying your holding tanks. You're going to connect your hose here. That flushes out your black tank so that it's clean before storing your camper. And if we go underneath, you're going to see some wastewater valves right here. So back here you've got a large valve. So this is your black water drain, and over here it's a small valve. That's your gray water drain. You can see they both come out of the same port. So you take the cap off, and that's how you drain off your tanks. So black is for your toilet, gray is for your sink and shower. And remember, when you're doing your black tank, that's when you would use this tank flush here to help rinse that tank before going away for storage, okay? Usually let that run for a minute or two, and that's enough to flush the tank out so it's nice and clean. A couple things back here. This large panel, this is to access the refrigerator. This is a service panel. It's controlled from the inside. So you guys really don't have to mess with anything there. That's just so we can get in and clean it periodically. This is the water heater. Same thing. It's controlled from the inside. The only time you'd open this is to basically clean it. Down the bottom, you will see there's a drain plug. I'll point it out. So that's to drain any residual water from this. Typically, we do that when we winterize the unit. It's not something that usually you have to mess with when you're out camping. That's like just at the end of the season. This is something gets drained. One thing I do want to point out for you to check is on the top, you're going to see there's a pressure relief valve here, and you just heard a little air come out. So the first time you use the RV, you want to open this again, like I just did, and allow the air to purge from the tank. You want all the air out of this tank before actually trying to make hot water. So you just open that. Once you see water, you snap it shut, and then you kind of leave it. And again, that's something you only got to do once. The first time you use the RV, and you don't really have to mess with it after that. This is your outside shower. There's an accessory hitch down here. This is used if you wanted to tie a bike rack back here and you know, carry bicycles or anything like that. On this side, you're going to see this black rail, and down below there's a propane connection. That's that yellow capped. This is where the griddle goes if you wanted to cook outside using the included griddle. That attaches right onto this rail, and you hook it up to your propane line. There's also a TV bracket here. This is your the built-in TV you can carry outside. Drop it into this and plug it in down here. You can watch TV outside if you want. That's the vent for your furnace. Again, typically if you run the heat, you're going to have the exhaust come out of there. There's also an exhaust vent right here. This is for the stove. And you see there's a little flap in here. Before you cook inside, just make sure that flap is opened. When you're driving down the road, you're going to want to snap it shut. So in the compartment here again, that's your griddle in the box. This is a little work table, goes outside on that rail also. There's also some hand cranks in here. You're going to find a crank for the stabilizer jacks. You're also going to find there's a small crank. That's for your front jack. If the battery's dead, you got to crank it by hand. And there's also this really long crank. And that goes actually, we'll have to lift the steps up, but you'll see a hole. That's to open and close the slide room if there's power failure. You can open and close that slide out by hand using that crank. Okay. Back up here, I want to point out on the awning. So I have this awning fully extended right now. This is really designed for sun, you know, light rain. If it's windy, stormy, you want to close this. However, you can pitch this if it's a light rain to make sure that it drains. And what you do, you're going to put your hand right here and then just pull straight down, and then you're going to tighten this knob, okay? Do that for a second. And I'll back up again and I can show you what we did. So you can see now this has much more pitch to it. You can do that on the front and the back. This is really necessary to make sure the awning doesn't fill up with water. But if it's a heavy rain, again, you're going to have to close this. This is really designed for, you know, a light shower, just to make sure the water doesn't build up on there. Normally, you're going to want to leave these loose all the time, and that'll allow this to flex and kind of give if it needs to. Okay, that's your awning. I'm going to go inside in a second. On your steps, I just want to point out to you, so these just lift up and down. You just grab it, push it in. Make sure your door is opened all the way when you do this. Once you set the steps up, the first time you close the door, you want to pay close attention right here. And you can see that's pretty close. There's only about ½ inch there. Okay, if the ground's uneven and the door rubs, you're going to want to adjust these legs. So right here, see this pin? You can actually remove this pin, and then the foot you can raise or lower more. And that's going to change the height on the steps so that you have adequate clearance here when the door closes, because you don't want to damage the steps or the door. Okay, inside you're going to find the control panel. So this first button here, this is to open and close the awning. You just basically hold it down and you let it open or close. This is to open and close your slide room. Wi-Fi, that turns on the Wi-Fi booster. If you want to use that feature, you're going to switch that on, and then you're going to find the network on your phone or your computer, and they give you the password and the control panel address. You have to go to this control panel to configure this the first time you use it. These are your light switches, interior, porch, and awning. This is to tell you how much liquid is in your tanks. So, for example, if I wanted to check my fresh water supply, I push fresh, and you see I have one light, which is empty, okay? As, you know, if you had water, you would see, you know, 1/3, 2/3 full, black. That'll show you the toilet, how much is in the waste for the toilet. So as you use this, you know, check that, and once you see it go up to full, that means you need to go empty your holding tanks, okay? Over here, so this switch is your water pump. That's used to create water pressure if you're boondocking or if you're dry camping. So if you go to a campground where there's no water, so remember, you put water in your tank at your house, and now you're at the campground, you're going to switch that on. You're going to leave that pump on while you're camping, okay? Anytime you hook up to an external water supply, so if you're at the campground and they have a hose and you hooked up to your city water, then you don't use the pump. So the pump is only if you're standalone camping, okay? These two switches here are for your water heater. This unit, you can run either gas hot water or electric hot water. Electric, you have to be plugged in. And your tank heater, this is the underbelly heat system. This is if it goes below freezing at night when you're camping, you're going to want to switch that on and leave it on. And that's to protect the tanks from freezing up on you overnight. Okay, down here, these are your fuses and circuit breakers. Everything's labeled here. And again, over here, to tell you what's what. This also has the battery charger built in. This is something you really don't have to mess with. It's just kind of good to point out so you're aware of what's there. While we're here, we'll do your radio. So I'm going to turn this on for a second. And this is going to go to FM mode by default. Okay, once the radio's playing, these two switches here turn on the speakers. One is inside, two is outside. And you see it turns blue when they're turned on. So you can put them both on, and they would play everywhere. So this is on FM mode right now. There is also a Bluetooth mode. If you hit this BT, that's if you have music on your phone and you wanted to play through the speaker, you can do that. There's also a CD and DVD player built in here. And this is also connected to your TV for audio. So if you push this mode button, see it says TV audio, you have to skip that. You actually have to go to where it says TV audio 2. And I have your TV on from earlier. And, you know, now the TV's playing through the sound bar, okay? To turn this off, you hold it down until it says standby, and that actually shuts it off. So jump to your TV for a second. Again, I have this on right now. On your TV, the first time you turn this on, you have to scan for channels. So on the remote, you're going to hit your menu button. And what you're going to do is scroll to where it says channel. And you're going to go down to where it says auto scan. Okay, auto scan is going to find any stations that are local, and it's going to load them in for you. Okay, this is to rotate your antenna for the TV. This knob just allows you to get a little better signal going if you decide to use the antenna. Now this TV, you can just grab this also and pull it straight out. That'll allow you to kind of angle it around a little bit. I just want to show you behind the TV. There is a little green light with a button, and see this turns on and off. So what you're doing there is switching your antenna on and off. So anytime that green light's on, your antenna is on. If you hook up outside with cable, then you have to switch that off. We're gonna leave it on though, so you're able to use the built-in antenna for now. So normally you're gonna have this glass down when you travel, but to use the stove, you're gonna wanna open this up. So this folds in half first, then goes back. To light your burners, you're gonna turn this to the light position. And now you hear the gas, and this is your sparker. You're gonna push this, and you just hold that down until your burner starts. Okay, I'll shut those off. The oven, there is an extra step. The oven uses a pilot. So for this, you're gonna turn this knob to where it says pilot. There's a little triangle. And at this point, you're going to open this. And what you have to do is hold this down with one hand, then hit your sparker. And now if you look below, you should see a little blue flame. Once you see the flame, keep holding this for another 15 seconds. And then you can, oh, see, I didn't hold it long enough, so it went off. So let me redo that. If you let it go too quick, it's gonna go out. So just try to hold it for full 15 seconds. Okay, so now I let it go, it stays on. And now we can crank up our temperature. So if I put this on 300, now she's up and running. Okay, I'll shut that off. Turn that all the way to off when you're not using it. Make sure the glass is open anytime you're cooking. There's a lot of heat that comes out of this area. You want to make sure you're not heating the glass up. You can get burnt on it or anything. Close this up before travel, obviously. Okay, up here you got a light and there's a fan. Remember, for that fan to work, you have to have that little flap open on the outside. So this is the thermostat for your heating and cooling. This is very simple. You just set your temperature on the top, and then down here you put if you want heat, cool, or fan only. Okay. There's a high and a low, and this is for the air conditioning. So when you're on heat, this doesn't do anything. But if you have cool selected, you can choose high or low for your air conditioning. There's your air conditioner up here. Now this is ducted, so you're going to get airflow through these round ducts that go all the way through the unit. But there are main outlets, and you can actually open and close these. On a real hot day, you're going to want to open these up because this is where the air is the coldest. So open this up. This is going to send the most air down to help get the unit nice and cool for you. Now the heat return is down under the stove, and the heat comes out. There's a duct in the bathroom. There's another duct over here by the entryway, and that's where the hot air blows out when you have the furnace going. This little panel here, this is the control panel, or monitor panel, I should say, for your solar panel. This thing here, it kind of just reads out your battery voltage. It'll tell you if the battery's charged, if it's being charged. We're in the building right now, so it's inactive. You see, it's got a little moon on there, but when you're out in the sun, that'll change to a sun. And if you want to hit the buttons and play with this, it'll go through and it'll tell you how many amps the panel is producing and how many amp hours it has produced and whatnot. So, but this thing works all the time. You don't have to do anything to it. It's just going to run. But if you ever wanted to check and see what it's doing, that's what it's here for, to to monitor for you. All right, in the bathroom, there's a ground fault outlet here. The little green light tells you that it's on. That outlet is wired to all the outlets in the RV. So if at one point, one of the plugs doesn't work, you're going to have to reset that. That's the main outlet, okay? Toilet. So the way the RV toilet works, there's a foot pedal. And if you push this halfway, that fills the bowl with water. If you push it all the way, it flushes. So before you use the toilet, you got to add water. This doesn't automatically fill up like a residential toilet. So make sure you add a little water in there before you go and use it. In the shower, I want to go over the water saver feature. So this comes into play if you're boondocking or you're camping someplace with limited water supply. This is to preheat the water before you get into the shower. So if I were going to take a shower here, what you would do, you flip the lever up first, you turn your hot water on, and you're going to wait, 10 or 20 seconds until this changes color from blue to white. Once it's white, that means the water is heated and it's ready for instant delivery. Then you flip this down and you'll get instant hot water out of the shower head. This is to prevent you from wasting cold water down the drain while you're waiting for it to warm up. Now, if you go to a campground and you're hooked up to city water, this has to stay down all the time. So the only time you use that is if you're running using your onboard water tank and pump, okay? When you have direct water, this feature does not apply. This is only if you're in self-contained mode, all right? So yeah, if you have city water, just leave it down and you're just going to use it like a regular shower, basically. When you're driving down the road, make sure you keep this thing locked up. There's a little safety on there just to keep the doors together. light switch on the wall. That's for the bathroom light. And up here, this is where the vent fan is. So this crank, this is to raise and lower the lid. And back here, this turns on the fan. There's 4 speeds. This fan will vent the whole trailer out. And this vent has a cover over it from the factory. So you can leave this up even in the rain or while you're driving, and you're going to get good ventilation. All right, the last appliance is the refrigerator. I'm going to open this. Now to open this, you have to turn the handle. See, they kind of tilt. So just do that, and that opens. I'm going to open both these up. Now this is off right now. So to turn this on, you're going to hit this on-off switch up here. It's going to beep at you. And you want to put it in auto mode. So if the auto light doesn't come on right away, push that button so you see auto. And now you see the lights on in here too. Now this refrigerator in auto mode, it's going to try to run on electric first. So right now I'm plugged in, so this thing's on electric. But if we didn't have electric, or if we lost power, or you were driving somewhere, this would know to go to gas mode as a backup. So auto is always going to try electric first, and then it's going to switch to gas if it needs to. You can manually switch it, and that's what that second button's for. But reality, just leave it on. Just leave it in auto, and allow it to switch on its own. Now this thing takes about 4 hours to 5 hours to get cold, so make sure that you turn this on ahead of time and give it a chance to cool off. Now I want to show you this table. So right now this is set up, you know, for eating, but to make it into a bed, and also when you travel, you have to collapse this table, okay? You don't want to drive with this thing up. But what we do, we flip it up on its side. There's a release right here, so you flip that, and then the legs fold up, and then we're going to drop it back down. And now it's going to go right on these little holders right here when you're going down the road. So Velcro too. All right, so now that table's ready for travel. To make it into a bed, you just grab the cushions and you fill in the spacing over here. These cushions are Velcroed in. You're going to see a little piece of Velcro back there. Just put your hand back to release the Velcro. Don't just grab it and yank it out of there. You don't want to damage it. The shades, these you just pull up and down. Pretty simple. This window is actually a little different. It's an emergency exit. This can be opened as a vent, just like that. And of course, you can exit through there if you had to. There's a little switch here to turn your light on and off. So this is the box for your tire pressure monitor. In this box, there's a suction cup and a charging cable for it. This is the unit right here. There's an on-off switch on the side. So before you drive, you're just going to flip this on. And this is going to show you your trailer with 4 tires. And this will tell you the temperature and pressure in each of the tires. Now you have to actually drive for this system to engage. That's why right now we're looking at a blank screen, but as you start going down the road, you will see the values fill in. And this thing will tell you the temperature, pressure. If the tire gets low, it's going to beep at you. So if you hear the beeping going off, that's your warning. You got to get pulled over and figure out what's going on. All right, and over here, so this is a switch. There's a light switch here. There's a 12-volt port. There's some USB ports for charging. I'm going to show you how to lower the Murphy bed. First thing you're going to do, grab the strap, pull this straight up. This flattens the bed. Up here, there's some locks on each side. Make sure those are unlocked. And then you're just going to lower this down. Be careful not to pinch your fingers. And that's it. That's to lower the bed. Now to put the bed back up, you're going to see a release right here. And this you have to pull out, like I just did there. So you're going to hold that out and lift it. That sends that back. And you're going to refold this and relock these things up for travel. Okay? All right, last part here. Let's see. Oh, this envelope, this has all the paperwork. This is all the directions for everything that the unit comes with when it's new. Oh, there are little footrests here. If you pull this, this opens the footrest. When you're sitting on here, to close this, you have to kind of curl it. Don't just push straight down because you can damage it, okay? So it's got to be kind of pulled back in like that. All right. Last step, I'm going to close your slide out, and I want to show you the lock bar. Lock bar goes in for travel. So I'm just holding the button down right now, allowing this to come in. One important thing to note, when your slide out is closed, I mean, you can't get by there anyway, but this is actually supported above the floor. And you do not ever want to sit in here or step on here when this is closed, because you can damage the floor very easily. So you want to be careful with that. So this is the lock bar. Put it down so you can see it. All right, and what we do with this is going to install above the slide. So one end's going to go here, and the other end goes against the wall. And what you do is you just rotate, and that's going to tighten this into place, okay? I only have one hand, so I can't do it right now, but you kind of get the idea. This goes up there. This is an extra brace, and the purpose of this is to make sure that this closes super tight when you're going down the road. So if it's raining, you don't have any water come in through the gasket area, okay? Smoke detectors up there. Forgot to point that out to you. There's also an LP or a propane detector too, and that's located on the near the floor under it. And that's just if you get a gas leak in the unit, it's going to basically beep at you. So okay, any questions? You can call or text or email. Thank you.